Okay, have you ever seen this old picture?
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
what do we see? We see the old lady or we see the young woman. And it's sort of like the same thing with disc graphs. And if you recall, we have, four temperaments. And when we include the wheel on the last page of your report, you see there are 8 sub temperaments or sub descriptors, like, uh, being in charge, being analytical, being the director. And we have the 4 P's. D's like to solve problems, I's like the people, S is about pace and how fast or how slow. The S line is the energy line. The C is compliance to procedures and constraints. Now, what we want to do is have each of you turn to, it's probably going to be page 19 or 20 of your report. And we're going to look at what these graphs are and explain what does it mean to have 1 color, 2 color, 3 colors above the energy line, what's high, what's low. So you might want to go to your actual report, and I've got a few sample ones here I want to use as part of this discussion. And if you have this page, like I said, it's in your report, it's going to be page 19, 20, 21. It's different depending on how many pages of your report. Not everybody has the same number of pages. And then sort of take notes right on here, and I'm going to explain how you analyze a graph and what you look for to understand the graph. And there's so much information just on this one page. And if you have, the other page, page 10, the behavioral characteristics, and you can lie those 2 pages side by side, it might make it easier, make more sense. So here's what we do when we look at these reports. And there's like a 3-step process that I follow. Well, let me first explain. Your natural style is the way you are at home. This is the way you are born. This is your behavioral competency. This graph 2 rarely changes throughout your lifetime. Graph 2, all the verbiage is based off graph 2, and graph 2 is the most accurate of the 2 graphs. So natural style, graph 2, remember this is on the right. Everybody raise your right hand. Natural style is on the right side. And believe me, when you start doing workshops, you have to repeat yourself 4 times. You say, look at the right graph, graph 2, and say it 4 times, because there's always they don't know, they're still behind. Graph 1 is the way you are at work, the way you adapt to the work environment. And this is your mask, basically. This is how you as the leader adapt or create a culture based on your style, or if you're a direct report, how you're adapting to your leader's style or the culture of your organization. Obviously, if you work in Zappos, the culture is going to be different than if you work in a law office, which is much more formal and much more inflexible. All right, so here's how we look at this. This is the energy line. All that means is it's like the 50-yard goal line on a football field. And we'll explain, why it's the energy line in a few minutes. So the first step 1, is we count how many colors are above the energy line. The uh, majority of the population will have 2 colors. A smaller number of the population will have 3 colors, and then even a smaller group, like the people we've been talking about earlier in the class, Donald Trump, etc., have 1 color above the energy line. But most of us will have 2, and then some of us will have 3 colors. You will never have 4 colors above the energy line. So step 1, count how many colors above the energy line. Step 2 is how many colors is above 80 and below 20. And this is sort of where the energy thing comes into play, is people who have more colors above the energy line have more flexibility and adaptability.
Say that again.
the more people, the individuals who have more colors, like 3, you can't have 4, have more flexibility and adaptability because I mean, as long as, say, if they're within this quadrant 80-20, those people are more easy to get along with and less likely to have I'm not saying emotional. Uh, I mean, it's sort of like lockjaw. I mean, the higher your scores and the lower below 20, it's harder for you to modulate. It's harder for you to adapt because of those, what we call high scores or low scores. Low doesn't mean bad. High doesn't mean good. It just means those behaviors are just a little bit more intense, and it, as I said, will take more energy for you to bring up those colors or lower those, and I'm saying colors, lower those emotions is what I'm trying to say, so that you're more easily adaptable and flexible.
So, all right, so let me ask another question. I'll have a ton of questions. Sorry, Sandy. So you said you can never have 4 above the energy line. You can't have 4 below the energy line either?
Only in what we call an unusual graph, which is in your
That would be
textbook.
somebody who had some emotional traumatic event or something like
Yeah,
that.
right.
But I mean, from a norm, you aren't going to have 4 above or 4 below.
Never.
Okay, so all right, I'm catching up with you now.
Oh, no
All right.
problem.
And, okay, so all right, I got that part done. That was step 1, and then step 2, you said look for things above 80.
Yeah, look at the color, and all this is just for your own information. In analyzing graphs, is anything above 80 is high, anything below 20 is low, and low and high are irrelevant words. It just means it takes more energy to lower or increase those behaviors in certain situations. If you have anything above 80 or below 20, you're going to be more predictable. That particular behavior, the problem solving or the people or the pace or the procedures is just it's going to stand out like a sore thumb on your behavior.
Okay.
Okay. So that's step 2. Step 3 is we want to compare the 2 graphs to each other and see if there's any disparity. Most people, particularly executives, independent consultants, senior level people, will have almost identical graphs between graph 2 and graph 1. So notice there's percentage points. And if any time there's more than 35% difference between the 2 graphs, then that person could be experiencing some sort of shifting or adaptability, or it could be stress in their job. And I don't know if I have a sample graph that shows some sort of disparity here. Can't get that to stick. But anyway, that's what we want. If there's more than 35 points, and I'll explain in a moment and give you examples, that the person may be, experiencing some sort of, some kind of stress, or they're new to the job, or they're having a emotional situation that's causing them to go up or down by 35 points. And just if it's just 35 points doesn't mean, oh my God, call 911, they got an M16 in their trunk. It just, you just have to find out and talk to the person and see if there's anything going on. So let me pop back as a quick review with the things and make sure we covered all the important information here. We call the natural graph your core style, which is based usually on the top highest two colors. This person's core style would be an I over D. This is called your behavioral design, which is based on all four factors. But if you're just doing a workshop and you're explaining what someone is, you say, hey, you're an I over D, or you're a D over I, or you're a I over S, or you're an I. A lot of people will have equal, they'll have two colors that are exactly equal to each other. And the next slide I want to cover is, we already talked about the graph reading process. We look at what's above 80, what's below 20, and see that. And if you see someone who's above 80 in some of these colors, then based on some experience and report reading, that this person may have difficulty in certain jobs, or that particular behavior that's above 80 or below 20 is going to, like I said, stand out and make them a little bit more predictable than, say, someone who has just three colors or something that hovering around, but in between 80 and 20. So folks here between 80 and who land between 80 and 20 are just a little bit more easier going, adaptable kind of folks. All right, so let's cover for the adaptive graph. This is, as I said, what your mask is. I always like to watch plays, and Phantom of the Opera has always been a favorite play of mine. The Phantom wears this mask, to cover his scarred face. So he only wanted people to see his mask. And so this is the mask we put on at work. Sometimes it's deliberate, and sometimes it's just, it's just the way we are at work. So for hiring, we don't pay much attention to the adaptive graph, because this is hiring, at their current work, job, or place of employment. For hiring, I only pay attention to the natural graph. When I'm coaching someone, then yes, you need to look at both graphs to see about their awareness at work. Are they adapting, and is their behavior in accordance to being a good leader, a good team builder, or whoever, or whatever job they might have. And so that's a lot of information, and I just want to make sure I cover everything here in this segment. And we talk about disparity, and when I said it's like 35 points, you see this person's D drop way down here. It's over 35 points. That might show you that they feel like the work environment doesn't require someone to be as task oriented, and their I goes up. I guess that just means they're going to be the class enthusiasts for that particular organization, because that's the only behavior that's coming out. Yeah, go ahead.
So when you say disparity, and so in reference to disparity, then you're only talking about between the two graphs.
Mm-hmm.
Not disparity between, like, this person's high I and the disparity between that and their low C. It's from graph to graph, correct?
Yeah, from graph 2 to graph 1.
Okay.
And again, 35 points is just the beginning. And in a rare, I would say in 1% of the cases, you will get an unusual graph where you find all four colors maybe hovering around the energy line. And you may also get a flag, a separate email that says this person is experiencing a lot of stress, or trying to be an overachiever, or all things to all people. And it still may be an accurate report, but it just shows if you have someone with four colors that sort of hover, and the hover is like really close to the energy line, and you just need to make sure that the report's accurate, and look at your textbook on the potential why it's unusual. I've had people go through divorces, or they're unhappy at work, and you'll see a lot of disparity. And you just have to, check that to ensure it doesn't become disengaging and the person is, burning out, or what, and or quit and make a big surprise. So that's sort of how you read these graphs. Remember, graph 2 is your natural style, it's on the right, and graph 1 is the adaptive style on the left. For hiring, we just look at the natural style. For coaching and development, we look at both graphs. So anyway, hopefully that was helpful.